Hi, my name is Will Ditzler, President of RiverBirch Executive Advisors and a certified Gazelles International coach. My core purpose is to help CEOs and leaders achieve excellence and fulfill their vision, and one of my core values is lifelong learning. It's with these things in mind that I've produced a series of short coaching videos. Today we're going to talk about using execution disciplines with a focus on how to use quarterly priorities, or ROCs, to drive accountability and follow-through. The principles covered in this video are largely based on the 4 decisions framework outlined in the book Scaling Up, written by Vern Harnish, as well as his first book, Mastering the Rockefeller Habits. I also have incorporated my personal experience and recommendations as a former CEO of a mid-market company and now as a business coach. The 4 major decisions every company must get right to reach peak performance are strategy, cash, people, and execution. Once again, we're going to focus on execution in this video. There are 3 execution disciplines: priorities, data, and rhythms. In addition to this video on priorities, I also have videos on data and rhythms if you're interested in learning about the 2 other execution disciplines. We all know the power of prioritization and the difficulty in maintaining focus on the things that matter most with all the distractions in life. This has never been more true than today with the constant information from technology and smartphones. As a coach, one of the things I work with clients on is filtering priorities down to the top 3 to 5 and the number 1. This applies to longer-term strategic moves, one-year key initiatives, quarterly priorities, and even to each week and day. When we host Gazelles workshops, we always ask our guests to verbalize their top 3 takeaways and their number 1. The focus of this video is on one particular kind of priority. Quarterly priorities are what we as Gazelles coaches call ROCs. The term ROCs is a reference to 2 things: the original book written by the founder of Gazelles, Vern Harnish, called Mastering the Rockefeller Habits, as well as author and speaker Stephen Covey, who used the term ROCs in his books and presentations as an analogy for the most important priorities in life. As a CEO of a mid-market consulting firm, one of the things from the Rockefeller Habits that made the biggest difference in our company was implementing quarterly ROCs. Over a 10-year period, I developed a specific methodology on making ROCs work, and I'm going to share that with you in this video. First of all, let's take a look at the simple demonstration of the power of prioritization using jars, rocks, sand, and pebbles. This is the analogy Stephen Covey used, and it's the most simple and powerful way I have seen to communicate the message. It applies to both your personal and business life. All right, so the demonstration we talked about is using jars to represent the amount of time we all have in life. We all are given the same amount of time to work with. And so I'm going to do a great analogy of the power of prioritization. So first of all, this jar of sand represents the little things in life, the relatively unimportant things, the space fillers that we tend to get to very easily. These would be things like surfing the web, returning emails, social media, watching TV, those kind of space filler things that it's really easy to get to. It's kind of our default. The next thing we tend to get to in life is the pebbles, a little bit bigger things. This could be things at work like a meeting with an employee, maybe an internal meeting, maybe once again, maybe a proactive client phone call. At home, they might be things like, taking care of things around the house or getting your kids to their practice and school and things like that. And then we get to the little bit bigger things in life. These might be more like an employee review at work, or at home it might be a family meeting that you have, or preparing for friends coming over. A little bit more important things, but still not the big priorities that we all said we wanted to get done at the beginning of the year. We're shooting this video just a few days after New Year, and everybody's talking about their New Year's resolution. So the next thing is, what are those things that we want to get to in life, but we struggle to, those bigger priorities? So those would be things like working out, staying in shape. Things like church or faith, or family time, friends. Things like vacations, And you can see that with the typical default way that most of us live, the things that don't fit in the jar are the most important things. So we've had our life run in a way that the things that we all say are most important, we don't leave time for. So what's the alternative to this approach? So let's take the same amount of time, the same size jar, the same amount of sand, pebbles, and rocks, and let's try this in a different order. So if we take the most important things in life, our priorities, at work, this would be our strategic planning, maybe new product development, innovation processes, client feedback systems and mechanisms to where we're getting client feedback and employee feedback. Those things that really feed our core values and our core purpose and our annual plan. Let's say we put those things in first. And at home, once again, these would be getting your vacations planned, taking a walk with your spouse, spending that family time, focusing on your health, working out. And we get those things in the jar first. Then we got the same medium-sized priorities. We're still going to get the client proposal out the door. We're still going to get the grocery shopping done at home. We're still going to get those important things done that aren't the big priorities, but we know we're going to get those done. And then maybe the little bit smaller things, once again, an internal meeting, maybe taking care of the house, things like that. We're going to figure out time to get those things done. And then, yeah, we still might have some time to play some video games or social media, surfing the web, whatever you might like to do. And now you'll notice that the same volume of material fits into the same jar, but the only difference was the power of prioritization and in what order we put the big rocks in. Those big rocks are often the important but not urgent things in life that we tend to procrastinate unless we have the discipline to put them in the jar first. So I hope you agree that analogy or that demonstration with the jar and the rocks and the pebbles and the sand was a really powerful analogy for the power of prioritization and getting the most important things done in life. So let's bring this back to how to use this in your business to drive results. Let me show you how to use rocks within the context of your one-page strategic plan and your meeting rhythms. You might remember from my other videos, we use a one-page strategic plan to keep things simple, and in the farthest right column is your quarterly priorities. That's once again these rocks. At your quarterly meetings, look at your annual priorities, your key initiatives for the year, as well as what's going on in your business. Have each executive team member independently write down up to 5 things they feel are the most important thing we need to do in the next 90 days to meet our goals and continue our path up the mountain towards our big, hairy, audacious goal. Write all of them on a whiteboard and then have the team force rank them into the top 3 using the following questions as a filter. First of all, is it one of the most important things we can do in the next 90 days? Number 2, is it not likely to get done or get done well if we don't make it a rock? And number 3, does it benefit from a team approach or collective intelligence, or is it more of an individual priority? One point that I want to make there is that these rocks are really set up to be team rocks for the whole team, not necessarily something that one individual can get done on their own. There's another section for that on the one-page plan called individual priorities. Remember also, these things are important, but not always urgent, and they will not get done unless we make them a rock. Depending on the size of the team, you may be able to handle anywhere from 1 to 5 rocks per quarter. Most teams I work with have 1 to 3. Once you choose your rock, here's what you do with them. Choose one person from the executive team to be accountable for the rock. That's your who. Document the rocks on your one-page strategic plan, including who, in the column for rocks. Then, each rock leader, the person accountable for the rock, chooses their rock team and sets up a kickoff meeting within 2 weeks of the rock being selected. The rock team can and should include others from the organization that are not necessarily on your top team in the company. In the kickoff meeting, clearly define a written purpose statement for the rock, deliverables, and timeframes. This is an example of a rock at the company that I ran called JF New when we implemented this system. And I was the team leader on this rock. It was in 2008. And I'm going to read this as an example of the detail and discipline that's needed to get these done right. It had me at the top of the page as the team leader. It had the people that I invited to be on the team with me. It had the deliverable time frames, and then a purpose statement. This rock was called the Native Plant Specification Tool rock. And its purpose was to enhance JF New's position as the ecological solutions leader and increase the success of restoration projects through development of a preliminary framework for a web-based native plant specification tool called Native Spec. So this is a good example of one of those important but not urgent things. We would come up with things like this, but who was going to take the lead on them and really get them done with all the rocks, pebbles, and sand that we all had to do and the operational responsibilities in our business? This is the type of thing that would get procrastinated until we learned and implemented the rock process. So once you've put together your purpose statement and your deliverables, you give a brief update in your weekly meetings and then a more substantive update in your monthly meetings to drive accountability. So you can never go more than a week as an owner of a rock without having to give some type of update to keep it rolling. At each of the quarterlies, the rocks are delivered, completed, and the new rocks are chosen through the process I just described. It should be some sort of a substantive presentation as to what the rock team accomplished, recommendations, time frames, and action items. Like many other things in life, the difference between using rocks well and not is the details and discipline. In implementing hundreds of rocks as a CEO and a coach in the last 10 years, the system I've just described to you is the best that I have found to consistently get quarterly priorities done. Remember, by nature, these are hard things to do, and with all the sand and pebbles in life, it's not going to get done without discipline and accountability to follow through. So thank you, and remember, never stop learning.